In the early years of the new millennium, I ran a weblog called presenceofmind.net. It still exists if you want to go look at it. The tagline of that blog is "In League with the Greeks." And I used that because I thought it was funny. I thought it was amusing. And at that time, I was tormenting children by looking at them and saying, "I believe you are in league with the Greeks." I had no idea where I got that phrase. I liked it because of the vowel sounds. I'm a poet, remember that. I'm always playing with sounds, and I believe that you are in league with the Greeks. It just appealed to me, that long E sound 3 different times, 3 different ways. I had no idea where I'd gotten it from. And I asked and asked and asked, trying to figure out people I thought should know, people who had a reasonably decent classical education and who may have been able to tell me who it was in history who said, "I believe you are in league with the Greeks." And I had no idea who it was or if anybody ever did. And of course, I don't even know now, but I believe that no one ever said it. I think I actually pulled it out of Breakfast at Tiffany's. That Holly Golightly at one point says, "I believe you are in league with the butcher." Which I think she's talking to her cat, maybe. I don't even remember. But I think that may have been where it came from, was Holly Golightly. But in any case, I believe that you are in league with the Greeks. I know that I am in league with the Greeks, and my argument would be that civilization as such consists of an alliance with Greek ideals. And by Greek ideals, I do not mean the political ideas that were invented by Greek politicians and then later ratified by Greek philosophers, particularly Plato. What I mean by Greek civilization is hoplite civilization, the idea of the hoplite freehold. I talk about it all the time. A hoplite freehold is a farm, ideally a walled farm, walled up with rock, and the rock is there because you had to pull it out of the ground before you could make the ground farmable. But the wall is there also because a hoplite freehold is a redoubt. We'll come back to that. But a hoplite freehold is a farm. It is a granary where you store the produce of your farming. It's also home to livestock, etc., but we can just roll that all in with the idea of a farm. Simultaneously, it's also an arsenal and an armory. It's the place where the hoplite farmer, the hoplite Greek, crafts his weapons and stores them. It's obviously the home for his wife and for his family, for himself, and for his livestock, and for his slaves, unfortunately, if he had any. But it is most fundamentally his last redoubt against marauders, brigands, thieves, robbers, foreign interlopers, and local rent-seeking politicians. The hoplite freehold is the freeholder's last redoubt. I can argue at great length that that freehold is what creates freedom, that there is no freedom for individual people without a corresponding freedom in the land. If you can't own the land that you live on, own and defend the land that you live on, then you don't own it. I would argue simultaneously that property exists to the extent that you can defend it, and a man without property has nothing to defend, and accordingly, typically will not defend anything much beyond his own life, if that. Civilization, what we call civilization, the state of ongoing, sustainable, stable civility, exists because of that freehold. It exists because each individual freeholder has something to lose that he doesn't want to lose to his neighbors. Let's face it, if all of his neighbors decided to gang up on him all at once, he'd be done for. He couldn't resist all of them. The hoplite argument is that each individual hoplite warrior can defend his own freehold, and the hoplites united together can defend their lands against those foreign interlopers and against those would-be autarchs, those would-be kings, that no one individual can become so strong that all of the others banded together in union cannot put him down. And this is what created freedom in the Hellas. where it had never existed before and has never erupted spontaneously since. Every place that's ever been free has been free because the Greeks figured out how to do it, and how to do it is with the freehold, with that freehold. It's common in academia to argue that there are 500 or so known civilizations on the earth. Those 500 consist of 499 barbarian tribes and half a dozen post-barbarian tribalist civilizations, tribalist societies, and us, the West. There is really only one civilization on the earth, and that is Western civilization, Greek civilization, Hellenic civilization, hoplite civilization. This is the only civilization that has ever existed on the earth, and all of the other so-called claimants are nothing but codified barbarism. Reasonably successful in the sense that they don't auto-annihilate until circumstances change, but nothing at all like us. Everything is open to question to us. We are unwilling to accept anything as received wisdom, incapable of being improved upon. And every other so-called civilization, every other instance of codified barbarism is exactly the opposite. It is impermissible to question anything fundamental in that civilization. To question the fundamentals of the civilization is to invite murder, to invite your own assassination, which happens again and again and again in barbaric civilizations, up to and including the so-called civilization of Islam. Islam is in the news this week. Islam is in the news every week because Islam is a barbaric doctrine. Whatever religious content within any individual Muslim's mind, much like any individual Christian's mind or any individual Buddhist mind, I do not care. What's going on inside your head is your business, and you're welcome to it. I can't see it, can't be aware of it unless you tell me about it, and I can't do anything about it no matter what, and I truly don't care. As long as it stays inside your head, do what you want with it. As soon as it emerges from your head in secondary consequences in physically observable actions, then I care very much, and I care very much that you behave yourself in a civilized manner, that you behave yourself as a Greek, as a hoplite. And if you don't, if you won't, and especially if your doctrine insists that you can't, you mustn't, that instead you must behave as a barbarian, then I care a great deal. And I do understand that of the 1.6 billion Muslims on the face of the earth, 0.1% are committed to active barbarism, and the rest are just onlookers, possibly aghast and horrified onlookers. But until Islam renounces jihad, until Islam renounces barbarism, renounces it in all forms, Islam cannot join civilization. Islam is not civilized. It was news a couple of weeks ago that the People's Republic of China was keeping a Chinese-Canadian girl out of the country. She had won the Miss Canada contest and was slated to participate in the Miss Universe pageant or whatever it is, and I truly don't care. But the Chinese would not grant her an entry visa to go to this competition because she had criticized the People's Republic of China in the past. And this became news because this is all about diplomatic protocol, blah, blah, blah. No, this is about barbarism. The Chinese are barbaric. They are barbarians. They are not civilized people. They are pretending to be civilized people. And the appropriate thing to do when they expose their barbaric nature is to point it out and say, what do you expect? They're just barbarians. And this is what I have to say to Islam today in the light of the San Bernardino massacre. What do you expect from Muslims? They're just barbarians. They have not renounced their barbarities. They have not renounced their barbaric doctrine. They have not said to the world that we recognize your right to pursue your own personal individual philosophy, whatever it is, religious or irreligious. You have the right to pursue your own ideals in a civilized fashion, and no one has the right to interfere with you. They do not say that. Whether or not they act upon the doctrine of jihad, they have not renounced it. And by failing to renounce it, they announce to the world that they are barbarians. I have Muslim friends, and I do not want to insult them. And I do not consider them barbaric in their behavior, certainly not in their behavior toward me. But this is something that you cannot suffer in your doctrine. You cannot say, oh, this is historic and it doesn't apply today, blah, blah, blah. This is the same argument that the Christians want to make, but the Christians have actively renounced that. This is what the Nazarene allegedly did. You have to ask his adherents to fill in the blanks, to fill in the details on this argument, but that is the argument of the Nazarene, is that all of that crap in the Old Testament is no longer operative. We have a new and everlasting covenant, blah, 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 that says love your neighbor and leave him the hell alone. And tell our Muslim friends en masse, 1.6 million of them, renounce and denounce the 0.1% who attempt to use their doctrine to rationalize the most vicious, atrocious, abhorrent, insufferable, barbaric crimes, then all of Islam is of a piece with barbarism. Islam is not civilized. Only the West is civilized. And I say to my Muslim brothers and sisters all over the world, you are free to join civilization at any time, but you got to leave your damn guns outside. My name is Greg Swan. This is the Church of Splendor. I'll talk to you again next week. With luck, it'll be better news.